Wow, you are in for a remarkable podcast. I have a fantastic entrepreneur that I had the good fortune to meet at Mastermind Talks, Jason Goddard's mastermind program, and she is amazing. And the reason she's amazing is a challenge that almost everyone as entrepreneurs we need help. I mean, some of us need more help than others, but all of us need help. Nobody gets through life doing it on their own and accomplishing anything good at all. And one of the things that we really need is phenomenal executive assistance. And this remarkable entrepreneur has one of the most successful virtual assistant programs out there. And she is going to share with you not only how you can be more effective with your own executive assistant, but many of us don't really know how. We know we should be using outsourcing more and more in today's world, but don't know how to do it. You're going to see exactly how you can leverage the talent of really talented people to make a remarkable difference. I'm John Bowen, co-founder of AES Nation, and this is all about accelerating your success. Stay tuned. You do not want to miss this.
Ordinary success? No way. You want amazing, remarkable, exceptional breakthroughs. Dig deep, think bold, drive hard, watch yourself soar beyond your dreams. AES Nation.
Yeah, I am so excited to have you here today. It's been, I remember we hadn't met, and I'm at your breakout session, and everybody's leaning forward because as fellow entrepreneurs, you know something that we don't know. You know how to really help entrepreneurs, and you are a very successful entrepreneur in your own right, but to be even more productive. And one of the biggest productivity hacks out there, all the software and everything else, is having a great executive assistant. So first of all, I want to thank you for joining us today to share the message.
Oh my goodness, John, it is so my pleasure to be here. One of the things that I noticed at my talk at MMT and others that I've given, whether it be at one of Todd Herman's live events or with Amy Porterfield, is that the questions that entrepreneurs ask about outsourcing have a level of desperation to them that other questions don't in other breakouts. How do I scale? How do I leverage? Whatever. But when it comes to finding a partner executive assistant that you can trust, there's a different level of angst in the questions that people ask. So it's my privilege, honestly, it's an honor to be able to help provide entrepreneurs at elite levels, talented virtual support to help them grow and scale with ease.
Well, and I think that with ease, and it really isn't surprising. I was in the front row during that period, and I kept on looking around to see, and the room was totally full, and we're all interested because this is such a personal thing. I mean, when you're assistant, some of the questions, can you give your executive assistant or your virtual assistant anything personal? And can you do this? Can you do that? And, and this is from so many business owners that are hugely successful, and they were so tepid in their kind of in nervousness in asking you. So I wanted to have you really share what's not only what can we do, but more importantly, what should we do to have this really, because when you have a partner that's working really well, and I've been blessed, I've had some phenomenal ones, and I've had a couple that weren't really good, and I'm sure a couple of them, if they were being interviewed, no, we had a couple of bosses that weren't that good too. But anyways, give me a little bit of background on, how do you don't wake up, one morning you want to have 80 virtual assistants or more working with you. How did this all come together?
Yeah, so it really started, I started my career in the virtual space 13 years ago when I had my first daughter. I remember working in corporate for a group of anesthesiologists, and everything that I did, I always thought I could do this from home. And no one believed me until I got pregnant and I was about to take 6 months off. And all of a sudden, they were interested in trying this virtual thing. And so it worked out great.
And they were doing it to help you out too.
Oh, of course. I'm sure they were. But it was a great segue really into being able to show people how we could get work done better, actually, faster, at a better rate when I was working at my peak performance, right? And so that's one of the things that I think is so critical to anyone looking for a virtual assistant, is to get someone who is well articulated into when they're at their peak performance. And so from there, I worked virtually for many years, got hooked up with some great high-level clients, and the entrepreneurial light bulb started to go off for me. And I realized that not only could I find and help match entrepreneurs with some talented virtual support that had those same characteristics that people were seeing in me, trust and integrity and commitment, but I could match them with the virtual assistant, and then I could train the virtual assistant to do and be the type of leader in that business for the entrepreneur that they could really come to count on and trust. So that's how we got started 4.5 years ago, and we have a team of 83 virtual assistants that work with us now, and we serve over 100 clients, anywhere from online entrepreneurs to brick and mortar or corporate attorneys as well.
No, it really is amazing what you've been able to accomplish, and I know from talking with you that you haven't stopped. There is such a huge need, and just kind of a little disclaimer, because I have a virtual business. I've mentioned before, I've got virtual businesses, a number of businesses, and we're doing quite well. And I've been amazed the scale. And global headquarters is my pool house. I have no employees. And if someone had told me that the last business I had was 400 employees, and kind of the sports, entertainment, and financial all kind of mixed together, and working with high net worth individuals, really helping them in their wealth management, almost kind of a commercial family office. And what happened was that I thought you needed that, and because I didn't know what I wanted to grow up in this new adventure that I was doing, I decided not to. And one of the things I love so much about virtual assistants and really outsourcing everything, kind of the entertainment movie part, is you have all these fellow entrepreneurs that come together that, they're in their own enlightened self-interest. They're creating a bigger pie. They want each and every one to be successful. And I have about 50 people working with me. And I love that they, in their enlightened self-interest, want to help me be more successful every day. And it's very different, and then they become more successful. We create a bigger pie. Whereas in the employee route, so often I would go, I gotta keep these people productive. How am I gonna do it? And what I see, through this, and in the meeting I was listening to, so many people are worried about this, and I mean, it just seems so natural now to me, now that I've been doing it for 14 years. But it's like everything. But why don't we just start at the baseline? What is a virtual assistant, and who's using them now? I mean, people have these visions of people in the Philippines or India or this or that, and where are they really showing up?
Yeah, and that is an option. So I feel like there's multiple types of virtual support that you can get. And so the offshore support is what I would call it. That is the India, Pakistan, Filipino virtual support. And those positions are great for people who have very rote tasks that they need done. They need spreadsheets gone through. They need certain buttons clicked every single day. Those types of tasks are incredible for offshore support. When you might need more of a US-based support, or someone in the UK or something like that has more subjectivity to them, is when decisions need to be made in your business that aren't black or white. Anytime there's a gray area involved, you've got to have someone involved who's invested in your business and who knows a little bit more about you and your company and your culture, the clients that you're serving, and things like that. So we've got the offshore support. You've got your more general virtual assistant. They're going to be the ones who can do tasks for you. They can take on projects for you as well. Then you've got maybe another realm is more of a tech virtual assistant. Those are people that they know a lot of WordPress. They know online sales funnels, digital marketing, things like that. And then you've got I joke that this is just a way for people to get more money. But then you have a role called an OBM, an online business manager. And that's really the catch-all. They're not doing as many tasks as they are overseeing a lot of other people. It does sound more expensive, right? A lot of virtual assistants do the exact same thing that an OBM does. They just haven't really realized their worth yet. So we kind of joke about that in our business. And then you have project managers that work virtually, and then you have executive virtual assistants. That this is your right-hand person. This is that guy or gal that, if it's more in a corporate world, they're maybe taking minutes at a meeting, they're planning your calendar, they're really managing you and your life. And so there's a lot of different types of VAs. In my business, I typically don't assign just a general VA to somebody. I get on a consult call with them and I figure out exactly what the needs of that entrepreneur is, and then tailor who the VA is, based on their needs. So yeah, it varies, and the tasks vary as well. Mm-hmm. So you can have, can you book this flight, to Fort Myers for me? Or you can have something as complex as, can you create a sales funnel for me? It really just depends on really what you need and what you're looking for in somebody.
So let's take a step back. One of the challenges, because everybody has different businesses, but really businesses are pretty much the same, and there are different skill sets we need at different times in our business. What I'd love to understand is, you have clients now, the entrepreneurs who are using virtual assistants that you have the privilege of kind of matching them up with. Yeah. Who's doing it well? I mean, what are they doing to really excel at this? Because, I see so often that, people ask me, because, they go, John, you're outsourcing everything. How do you do that? And I said, I don't know. It's pretty easy, actually. And it works better than when I had all the employees. But what are you seeing working?
What I see that works the best, the clients that have the most success with us, that have been with us for the entire 4.5 years of our existence, are those entrepreneurs that know exactly where they're going. They have the plan. They have the strategic vision for where their company is going. They just need support in getting there. Maybe things are starting to fall through the cracks because they're scaling faster than they had anticipated, or a new business idea has taken them in a direction that maybe they don't know so much about digital marketing, or maybe they just don't really have a desire to learn that, and so they want to outsource that piece. Or perhaps they let go their corporate assistant, right, when they're working in their corporate gig, and they're just missing that extra piece of someone who's just always got their back and is always sort of looking for the pothole down the road. Those clients tend to do better with us because they have a clear idea of what they're doing, and they have established businesses that aren't relying on a virtual assistant to launch that business. The business is already launched and working really well. Another thing that I see working really well in the relationships that go the distance are clients that have systems and process in place. And if they don't have systems and process, they're willing to kind of dive in and get that stuff done, because there are things that are only in their head that if they're going to outsource effectively, they've got to get them out. And so those clients that will dive in and spend a few hours recording some videos for their virtual assistants, those are the relationships that just far and above, they go so much further in really alleviating overwhelm and stress, and frees up the business owner to really do what they were created to do.
It's so funny you say that, because I've had a lot of virtual assistants along the way, and with other than one who left because she married an EVP and decided to start a family, which I was disappointed I wasn't number one in her life. But other than that, it's been great relationships. I mean, and I've been doing this business. I mean, the first one 14 years ago has more of a project management type role now, but, just phenomenal. And so very little turnover. And the part that I love about it is, that we can really work effectively, and I think more effectively, and they appreciate, some are single moms, some are married, some are single individuals, and, they can fit their life around. They don't have to be, every second in the office and kind of the to make everybody happy. And the video stuff, I do, even when we're bringing them in, we, exactly what we want. We share the vision so they can see that. Every day I cut little short sound files, sometimes videos, to my assistant, to other team members. And, so we communicate more, I think, than, the traditional brick and mortar. And
Absolutely.
Then I love having a huddle every morning with my virtual assistants. So, it's only 15 minutes, but, the ideas that come out, the things, the challenges that we need to deal with, they know the business and they're seeing things from a different perspective that's so valuable.
Well, and John, that's one thing that I love that you touched on that, because a couple of things. One thing that I see you just in hearing you describe it that you're doing is we call this E3 Collective. It's actually an option that we have for people to put their VAs through, but it sounds like you are encouraging your VA. So you're getting to know them. They're just not this nameless person, working behind the scenes. So you're being part of their life, engaging with them, meeting with them, things like that. You're equipping them, right? So you're giving them the tools that they need to do what they're supposed to do in your business. And then you're empowering them, right? Because at some point, all of us, and this is the hardest point for a lot of entrepreneurs, you gotta back away and let the VA do their job. You have to give the keys to the car. I remember there was a gentleman in a breakout that I did who was so nervous about giving his credit card information to his virtual assistant, and it's like, oh my gosh, what is the worst possible thing that can happen? Get them a credit card with $1,000 limit if that's what it takes, but you've got to let go. And so it sounds like you do that effectively with your team. And not only do you do that, you meet with them regularly. I think the relationships that work well, again, it's a 15-minute stand-up meeting. All you got to do is ask 3 questions, guys. So for your audience listening, ask, what'd you work on last week? What's coming down the pipeline this week? And what are the impediments to progress? Because more often than not, you, unfortunately, are the impediment to progress. So it's a great way to sort of, find the cogs in the wheel, figure it out, and keep your team moving on toward, the objectives that you have in your business.
Well, what I like is, you have the right virtual assistant when they say, you know what? Let me just do it.
Yes.
And, get out of the way and I'll take care of it.
But that's that empowering part, right? Because oftentimes if you're a helicopter CEO and you hover and you won't ever really let somebody do something, then it stifles the relationship. It really breaks down that trust barrier that has to be there in order for a VA to really excel at their position, because, their middle name is assistant. They want to help you. That is where they get their value, from helping. And so if you don't let them do it, then you're really preventing them from being able to assist you the way that they really are created to do.
Well, and it's it's a failed relationship.
Yeah.
And I have done initially, virtual assistants, very easy because they're distant, to hold them distant. And what I've found that, treat them as if they're outside the office or in the office with you. But I want to go, one of the things that make it so easy, I mean, we're talking, doing a video podcast, a recording for our peers, over, free. We're using Skype and some technology, Wirecast, and I'll place it in the Dropbox, and I'm not sure what happens after that. But
you don't need to know that.
And I don't, and that's the point I'm making. I don't need to. And then I know my assistant makes sure things get taken care of, all the posting, everybody's notified, and it's very streamlined. And as a matter of fact, today she brought up some ideas. Stacy, my executive assistant, that I work most close, so I've got a few others, but she's my personal one. And it's just, she's going, John, do you want to even know about this? And I go, no, just do it. It's working, type thing. And that's where, once we get in that, and it's not going to happen instantly, but it's going to happen if you allow it to happen, if you have the right person, and they're going to create so much value. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. I think the value really comes from that duality of the relationship of, it's give and take for sure. You've got to loosen the reins a little bit, knowing that there might be some spilled milk. They're going to make a mistake. They're going to maybe make a judgment call that you wouldn't make. But But as you guys get to know each other, they know your business, you know their temperament and how they work, and how you need to give them communication or how they need to communicate to you to get the real answers they're looking for. Things will create this solid foundation for you so that you can go off grid. I remember one of my clients, he took a sabbatical and was completely off grid for a month every single year. And he just knew I had it handled and it was all going to be okay when he came back. There weren't, the place wasn't going to burn down. The virtual place wouldn't burn down. And that's only built on trust because he gave me the power to be able to run his business.
Well, one of the things I want to come to, because on your website, and I'll bring it up in a little bit, there are so many productivity tools. I was just, surprised, and I could check off a lot of them, but not all of them. And I want to cover a couple areas that you're doing, like scheduling. I'll go for the fellow executives, entrepreneurs, and so on. I really thought initially I was going to alienate my assistant by not letting her suggest times, manage the calendar and so on. And it was kind of like, I said, some of the people are starting to use this scheduling program. And she goes, John, I just thought you were uncomfortable with it. That's what we really should do. And I have a very busy calendar, and what it allows, she confirms everything and so on. The people appreciate it. And, I'm working with very high level across, the other side. I have as soon as we finish, I have a video conference with some senior executives in a Hong Kong financial setting, and and it's been nonstop today, and it's a busier than average day, but everything's confirmed, it's done, it's prepared. I've got the other side's prepared, I'm prepared, and the productivity, I leave a little sound file, she puts it into our CRM, and and any reminders of the actions that need to be taken, she makes sure they happen. And it's like, I don't understand why everybody doesn't do it that way.
Well, and we should be automating as much as we can, because even if we have a virtual assistant, it's not the best use of even her time, right? To be back and forth scheduling with people, we can just open up your calendar and make it happen. There is a human component where, whether it's, VIPs, people who aren't technically savvy, where that element of human interaction needs to come into play. But we should be finding things in our business all the time that we can automate or cut out steps or do things like that to make us all more efficient. And we want VAs and executive assistants in our businesses that are going to be actively looking for those types of things, because if she's not spending time focusing on your calendar, maybe she can be spending other time, working on the podcast or creating new ideas for you to reach a new market and things like that. So we can always rely on on the sort of human interaction is key, and relationships matter, and they do. But we can bring in some of the automation to kind of alleviate some of the tedious work that even the VA shouldn't be doing.
Well, and what I love, because there are some people I do have in financial services, some very successful people that don't want to turn on their computer. Or I don't know anybody who doesn't have a computer, but they don't use it. And so sending them an email with the link to schedule the appointment. But, again, we talk about the priorities, and the standard is about, if we haven't heard from them in 3 days, she does the classic assistant reaching out to make sure, and and that works well. And if it's a higher priority, or we know somebody for sure isn't going to do it, but creating, and one of the things I really enjoyed in your talk, and I'm working with my assistant to upgrade it a bit, is the procedures, and letting her do it, but really documenting everything, and we do this throughout the firm. But I kind of let it slide a little bit in our relationship, because we started in the beginning. I had another assistant that had put together the beginning, and it's just now, as we do that, and then you kind of do this assessment, is this really the way we should do it? And there's enough no's. How would you suggest we do it better? And she's able to do that.
Yeah, and what's interesting is that even empowering your virtual assistant to have a voice and to be able to say, hey, John, this is taking 30 minutes, and really if we did this one thing, it would take my time down to 18 minutes, allowing them to give input and things like that. And that's why I think those field guides, or the playbooks as we call them, are so massively important in any business. And it's a pain. Believe me, you guys, entrepreneurs listening to this, you're going to be like, I don't want to have to document every single thing that I do. Document every single thing that you do, because should your VA get hit by a bus, we want someone to be able to come in and they can at least follow steps. They can do that. They may not get your voice down, perfect out of the bat, but God forbid something horrible happen. We at least can get somebody in there to step in and fill in the gap for you so that business keeps moving. But what we want to do as we're empowering the VA to be able to document that stuff, and let me just give you a little bit of backstory for those of you listening. What I encourage people to do is just use a tool like Viewed It or Loom, and I'm sure John will list these in the podcast notes, and just record yourself doing. Maybe you want your calendar set up a very specific way. I am the most anal person on the planet when it comes to my calendar. I want certain colors for certain things. I want a flight listed a very specific way. And so I just recorded myself booking those things on my calendar for my assistant, and I showed her the colors and how I want everything laid out. And now she knows exactly how to do it. And so I dump those links in a Google document, and then she makes them pretty. Like if she needs to watch it 5 times and take screen captures or whatever, she can do that if she wants to. But she makes it pretty. I record it once, and then that's the procedure that she follows. Now when Google Calendar makes updates or changes things, or I get a hair up my booty and I want to do something different, then she can change that and adjust it, based on what happens, so that if something happens to her, another VA comes in, they just follow the steps. And so it's a boring process, but it's so essential to make sure that things are done the way you want them to do. And it's a way to manage expectations too.
Well, and I found that they're more than willing to do, put it in writing for us, because they want to make sure it's right. One of the things that you talked about at the meeting, which I thought was very important, and it took me a little while to get comfortable with, is kind of sharing passwords, securities. We use the same technology, but I thought, that's something that everybody seems a little uncomfortable with. And, pretty much they have access to everything. Hopefully you're doing the background check, the behavioral type stuff and all that, which I know you are, but anybody you bring into your house, you should have, when we were doing sports and entertainment, we would run background checks on the nannies, and sometimes they were criminals. And you say, you probably don't want to bring, she might be sweet and all that, but type thing.
And honestly,
how do you
make
deal
sure
with this security stuff?
Yeah, so first of all, make sure you're doing both state, local, and federal background checks, guys. When you're just going to run a background check, a lot of people skip the federal, but in order to find identity theft, you have to do a federal, because identity theft is a federal crime. So do a federal background check as well. So that's my tip for you there. As far as so once you've done the background checks, call the references, do that, look at their portfolios, see what credentials that they bring to the table. But then always, never just, even if they have a clean background check and Sarah's really nice, you still have got to protect yourself. And so we use tools like LastPass is our favorite. Another great one is 1Password. There's another password profile manager called Dashlane that's fairly good. I just like LastPass.
We're going to just say, go use LastPass, because I like that too.
It's cheap, it's effective, it works, and there's not really any difficulty in using it. Every time you use a website, the little box will pop up and it'll prompt you to save that password, and then you can share it. So if anything happens, you get a weird feeling, they go off grid, you don't hear from them for a week, you literally click a button and all their access is gone. And so that's a layer of protection that, whether they're nice or not, whether they come from a referral or a reputable source, you just always want to have that extra layer of protection for yourself and really for them too. You don't want something haywire to go weird, and then maybe you're accusing them and they didn't do anything, and then they feel uncomfortable. And so it's just a great method to just cover everybody.
No, and what about communication? I mean, we're on Skype now, and I've always used that for podcasts. But what the video versus just being on the phone? How do you see that with assistants?
So I feel like the most effective is video communication. I use a tool called Zoom all the time. I actually like it. I think that the connectivity is better than Skype personally.
We use Zoom like crazy, but for some reason, for the podcast, we've stayed with Skype. That's where
Yeah.
you get procedures, and you should probably
Yes.
reassess them here.
Yes. So I like Zoom. Another thing that we do often, and this is for a lot of clients that are really on the go a lot. Todd Herman uses this extensively with his VA. Is he uses an app called Voxer. It's like a walkie-talkie app, kind of. He'll just push on his phone, leave a message for his VA, and then it goes beep beep to his VA, and then she can listen to it right then, or she can save it for later.
I don't know that one. I'll have to take
Yeah.
a look at it here.
Voxer's pretty good. I have 4 children, and so I'm in the car a lot, and I get an idea or I think of something, after this call, I might have a follow-up that I want my assistant to make for me, and I'll just send her a little Vox, and then she'll, add that to her list of things to do. So those types of communication tools are really important. Another thing that I really like, now I caution you, this can become a distraction, so you have to gauge your own personality, but we use Slack a lot. Our email communication is pretty much zero, and we use Slack. It's a chat on steroids, I like to call it, and you can do video calls quickly within it. It integrates with Zoom, and you can make actual phone calls using Slack as well. And I like it because it's searchable, and you can find files and stuff in it. So that's for that instant, more quick communication. You wouldn't want to put a bunch of to-dos in there.
I found that I don't want that, but my team uses a tool like that, and they. I don't want to be that instantaneous in things here.
And you don't have to be. You don't have to be. But for them, especially once you're growing and scaling a team, it is good. What I've found really, and this is a quick little culture thing, is that Slack has been really great for morale. Whether it's them just like quick putting a picture of like what their workspace looks like today, or what's the last thing they drank. It's fun to just kind of engage your team in a different way that isn't always about work. So Slack is a little bit fun for things like that as well, if culture is important to you.
Culture is important, and that's the great tools. I'm looking down on, let's touch one that you recommend on your website is Evernote, and I did use Evernote. I actually like it. It's just up the road from me, as a matter of fact, as I drive to San Francisco Airport. They're on the left-hand side. But I used Microsoft Notes, and they're about the same.
Yeah.
But I'm a window guy, but those tools, whichever one you use, they're just phenomenal.
Yeah. Things like Evernote are really good for team-based communication. I actually don't like Evernote for communicating with your team. I like Evernote for when I'm on the road. We actually were just in Georgia purchasing a house, and with every single house we went to, I took pictures and I made notes, and I had it all in Evernote. So when my husband and I came back, we kind of reviewed all of the pictures and the notes and all the things without me having to look at, scratch pieces of paper of me trying to remember what the house looked like or what a specific bathroom layout was. So I like Evernote for more my personal use and my business thoughts. I will download blog posts in there, kind of, frame out. I'm working on writing a book right now, and so my chapters are kind of broken out in there and things like that. So Evernote for more personal stuff, and sharing files with my team. If it's something I need to get a PDF to them that is on my Evernote, you can share it very quickly and things like that. So yeah, it's a great tool.
No, and there's so many tools. And what I want to do, let's say, what would you say, with the virtual assistants, so many, technology becomes so important, and I've actually worked with some that are not as technically competent and some are. So how would you address that?
Yeah, so it really depends on what you want the virtual assistant doing. So there are some assistants that really, they don't have a need for technology. Maybe they are the ones who are maybe they're going to be a concierge for your clients and helping them onboard, right? And so maybe it's just more relational. And so tech's not very important. If they are going to be techie, I would definitely either enroll them in some courses. I just put my VA through a Facebook ads course from Nicholas Kusmich because he's brilliant, and she has an interest.
I was just on the line with Nick.
Oh, are you? Awesome.
He manages our Facebook campaigns,
okay.
and he is very good.
I just adore him. And so she has an interest, when we do our quarterly calls, I say, what are you loving? What are you hating? What do you want to grow in? And she said, I'm really loving the social media piece, but I just feel like I want to be able to get in and understand the ads manager and understand what's going on in there. Cause I look in there and it's deer in the headlights. And I was like, okay, well, let's buy you this course. And you can learn, so you can know and get me analytics when I'm asking for them. And so I think that's one way that you can really pour into your team, and you're investing in them. And I promise you, if you invest in them, their allegiance to you just skyrockets. If you'll put them through the courses and you'll care about what they're interested in, that's really important as well. But if they're not techie, I think the best thing that you can do is find one lane, one project, one thing you want them to learn. Maybe it's WordPress. And so you just, send them to some courses on WordPress, make them research it and figure out what to do. You shouldn't be doing that. And then, pay for that and allow them to kind of grow, and just say, I want 10% of your week focused on growing.
Yeah, this is so valuable. Let me go to the last segment here. Resources. I'm going to pull up your website. Tell us what's there and how our fellow entrepreneurs can use not only the website, but your company.
Yeah, so we listed out a lot of resources that we get asked about the most. So a lot of clients will come to us and they're wanting to build membership sites, or they want to create online products or programs and things like that. And so we listed really the best of the best that a lot of our virtual assistants are well versed in. So obviously there's some strategic thinking there. We wanted to have things that we were familiar with.
I'm just putting it up on the screen. I just hit resources and tool, and I didn't know all this stuff was there, and it's very well done. And
thank you.
Yeah, I mean, there's just some super resources there that are very powerful. And even if you're not interested in taking good care of your assistant or having them productive for yourself and your enlightened self-interest, you should go to the website. And the website address is, again, priorityva.com. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's it. priorityva.com. And and actually, John, if it's okay, we have a really interesting opt-in it's entitled 11 Ways to Win. And we actually put that under priorityva.com /AES Nation for your audience. And it really, we took really the best of clients that we've worked with, or colleagues and friends of mine, and asked them how they utilized a virtual assistant. And what we came up with is that there were really 11 ways that really the best of the best in these online entrepreneurial spaces utilized their virtual teams to really get people thinking about how they can outsource, what makes a great outsource relationship. And so that's available to your audience if they'd like it as well. And then, of course, if people are struggling to find a partner virtual assistant or executive assistant that they know and they can trust, I'd love to invite them to a conversation with me to help them figure out what they need, but more importantly, who they need on their team, so that they really know, they have someone who has their back.
Well, I'm really glad that you were willing to join us today, because I know I tried to talk to you right immediately after the meeting, and you were surrounded and so on. And, the insights, really having the real world experience at so many levels has just been invaluable. Let me go and kind of summarize the key takeaways here. To me, the biggest thing is none of us, create anything good by ourselves. And we've got to have the right team. And one of the most important team members is your executive assistant /VA. In outsourcing this role in today's world, I live in Silicon Valley. If you're driving more than 5 miles, it can be an hour trip anymore. And, the quality of life is so important. Virtual assistants so often appreciate. You don't have to have somebody local. Matter of fact, very few of the people working with me are local. And it really can create some value. Make the decision. I think you did a great job separating the offshore, the kind of I think of that as assembly line virtual assistant. Mm-hmm. Usually in my business, I've tried a little of that, and I ended up going, no, most of mine is really creative, so I don't do that. But depending on your business, you may want to. The big thing is to really invest the time and energy, as you would with a client, with your team. Your best clients are your team, and to make sure that they're growing with you, because they will help you tremendously. Use the tools, empower them. I love the idea of the 10%. I haven't thought of it that way, the 10% education, because as they become more successful, in the collective enlightenment, self-interest, we all become more successful. So I want to thank you again for sharing so many great ideas. Wish you the best of success. Just above me, aesnation.com will have the transcript, all the links, so you can go. I mean, I've just pushed the button, so I'm waiting on the email to come back with a special report because the insights are so valuable. You should do that as well. And with that, remember your clients, your future clients, and your future VAs are counting on it. I wish you the best of success.
Thank you so much.
Exceptional, remarkable breakthroughs. aesnation.com